Alright, Bryson and Jarrod here from Spicy Boys. Spicy Boys is a podcast where we can sometimes have difficult conversations around sex and disability.
Yeah, so we might be talking about things like queer phobia, homophobia, transphobia, ableism, trauma, some really difficult stuff. So you might feel a bit triggered by some of this. So feel free to tune out, take a break, skip an episode.
Hello, welcome to the Spicy Boys podcast. This podcast is recorded on stolen Aboriginal land. And on behalf of myself and Bryson, I would like to pay my respects to elders past, present, and emerging.
I would like to echo what Jarrod said, and as we are both queer, I would like to acknowledge the long history of gender and sexuality diversity in Aboriginal cultures.
We would also like to acknowledge the long history of the disability rights movement. And me and myself and Bryson are only here today because of the shoulders that we stand on that have literally put their lives on the line and in some cases lost their lives for us to have the human rights of people with disabilities we appreciate today. Episode 2, Bryson.
Episode 2, Jarrod.
Well, we made it.
We did indeed.
How was your week?
Oh my god, I've been so busy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
I just doing lots of stuff with CEDA and also trying to have a social life and support workers and yeah.
Coming up to Christmas is like the hardest time to find support.
Yes.
When everyone wants to go away and you want to do more. And,
Yeah.
For me and a lot of people I know, Christmas is not a fun time.
No.
When it comes to support and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. I feel that, and I'm in terms of my physical support needs, they're relatively low. But like, yeah, even like the other week, like I found out my one of my regular support workers is going away, and I was like, even that small change in routine, and the support worker I'm having in the meantime is still really nice. He's a great guy, and I want to work with him in the future. But I was like, no, like that.
I don't know about you, but like I do whatever I can to not put anyone new on. Like for me to hire someone is a big deal.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I try to avoid that.
Yeah. Yeah. I've become a lot more like that. When I first started accessing support, I would just kind of put up with whoever showed up.
Yeah.
But increasingly now I'm like, nah, like, if I don't like the person, or if I don't gel with the person, I don't want to work with them. And I said, because I'm with, I'm plan managed, and I access my support. I've chosen to access my support through a support agency. And I said to the guy who organises my shifts, I've said I'd rather have the same people on different days than have the same days and have different people. And a newer guy that I've started working with, like our first couple of shifts, he was like, do you want to do anything? And I was like, nah man, like we'll just spend the whole 3 hours just getting to know each other. Like I'm not comfortable doing anything else with you until we've like bonded. And like we've now had 4 shifts together. And like the last shift we had, then I felt comfortable like actually doing stuff with him. But like, yeah, it was like 3 shifts of us just like hanging out and talking. Cause
how much detail, not about your support needs, but about who you are, do you give the agency and also new support workers before they come on?
for me, like the fact that I'm a trans man is like, and queer is like crucial. Like I'm just like, they need to know that right out the gate, because I'm not going to work with anyone that's not on board with that. So like that's literally, I know that my file starts with like, Bryson is a trans man. That's like the first line of my like file with the support agency.
And I suppose if they're like, what's that? And you're like, maybe you're not for me.
Yeah. So yeah, like I'm very open about being queer and trans, because for me, I couldn't, and I think for most people, like they couldn't work with anyone that didn't support them. But for example, my support needs, like, even if someone was just helping me do my laundry, I wouldn't want to, because some people might be like, well, it doesn't matter if they're like just helping me with my laundry, like, you know. But for me, it's like,
I mean, you don't want a queer phobic person touching your underwear.
True.
But
Or do I? Do I secretly want to be like,
expose the therapy
yeah,
for them.
yeah. No, I mean, I guess I just thought, like, I guess I might have like queer themed clothing or whatever. Some people do. Yeah, I don't know. But in answer to your question, like personal detail, like about my life, yeah, like, and then again, this is something I've like evolved over time. I'm like, the more they know, the better. Like, you know, like.
I don't know about you, but it's more of a big deal in my head. Like, growing up, I'm an adult. But when I lived by myself in St. Kilda, I used to wear female, what people would typically call female underwear.
Oh, okay.
And in my head, there was like this 4-week period where I'm like, but I need help getting dressed.
Yeah.
My support worker puts on my pants, they put on my underpants, they do the basics.
Yeah.
So, for me to express myself in that way, I need external support.
Yeah.
And I remember in my head for like 4 weeks going, how do I bring this up? What do I say? What do I...
Yeah.
do I have to have a conversation about like my life? Like, when I was 9, I saw my first dick.
Yeah.
And, But really, that was never the case. The conversation was like, what do you want to wear?
Yeah.
And I said, I'll wear them. And they were like, oh, okay. And the only comment was, that might not be the right size for you. Because I had no idea what I was buying or wearing or whatever.
Yeah.
So it was just the fact that I was a bit small was the only thing my support worker brought up.
That's good.
Which I thought was really cool.
Yeah.
And so my brain was like, oh my god, this is so massive for me, and what's going to happen?
Yeah.
Am I going to lose support? And, but yeah, it went relatively well.
Yeah.
I guess, going off our conversation in episode 1, that's the difference when you get informal family support to paid professional support.
Yeah.
In that context, there is a professional element there.
Yeah.
Where people are like, well, this is your job, I'm not doing anything unusual, I'm still putting on a pair of underpants.
Yeah.
They just look a bit different to the normal stereotypical straight man.
Yeah.
Underwear. So yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, for me it was myself getting myself to that point.
Yeah, definitely. Even I had a similar experience in terms of, oh, it's not a big deal, even though it was a big deal in a good way, with the support worker yesterday, because I shared a bit about my gender affirmation journey, and I was kind of telling him about my sort of plans for it, and I was like, oh, like I feel this might be a bit weird to talk about, and then I told him, and I was like, oh no, that's cool, man, like, and I was like, because I am like, there's a significant step that I'm planning to take in my gender affirmation, and I'm going to require a lot of support around it because it's going to require a lot of logistics and stuff, and yeah, so it's important that I talk to my support workers about it. It's also so intensely personal, and it's like, um,
Where's the line there?
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
yeah. And I was just thinking while you were talking, and it's like, what's our role between being clients and educators?
yes,
Like, we are already paying these people.
yeah.
So why are we educating them
Yeah.
as well?
Yeah, yeah. That's interesting. I've thought about that actually. And I was speaking to someone who was like, "Well, why don't you just make sure all your support workers are queer, so you don't have to educate them?" And I was like, "Well, that's
Not
quite
how it works.
yeah, it's quite a hard specification to make, and two, like, I mean, even though it's a legitimate specification, it's hard. It would be hard to have my support workers to only queer." And two, like, I actually enjoy educating as long as someone's willing to listen. Like, that's actually something I find really fulfilling.
I mean, and there's the assumption that all queer people are cool,
Yes, exactly.
and they're not.
Yes. And sometimes they're worse either because they're actually a bit bigoted towards aspects of the queer experience they don't understand, or they make it too much about their experiences. So like I've talked to gay people who think that being gay is like, and obviously there are heaps of parallels, but I've talked to gay people who are like, they think that they get being trans a lot more than they do by virtue of the fact that they're gay, and I'm like, no, that's not, that's certainly a lot of parallels, but
Trans people are bottom of the food chain.
yeah, yeah. I thought you were about to say trans people are bottoms, and I was
Well,
like,
you tell me.
no, that might be something for future episodes.
Okay.
Yeah, gotta leave some, hold some back, Jarrod.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So in this episode of Spicy Boys, we have my friend Luke Nelson from Nam, so-called Melbourne. I've known Luke for going on 15 years now. And he was one of the first people I met when I joined the disability community, the activist community. And I sat down with him to talk about what it's like to live with cerebral palsy and also a bit of an intellectual disability. And his experience of, he had some great stories around things like how old he was when he first had sex, and the story about him accessing audio porn, which I thought was very interesting. So let's go to the interview now with Luke Nelson, and we will catch you when we come back. Hey Luke, welcome to Spicy Boys.
Thanks, Jez. Looking forward to it.
How you been?
Really good, mate. Really good.
Now in the intro, I said that we've known each other for about 15 years, but well, how long do you think it has been since you started doing your advocacy and your disability stuff?
I think I was thinking about that the other day. It's so funny you should ask me that. Well, I started when I was 18. I started, and I'm now 34. So I think it's 16 years. I think, yeah, I'm pretty sure.
What made you do disability advocacy so young? When I was 18, I was in the club drinking and doing all God knows what. What made
Yeah,
what made you go, no, this is important?
it's funny you should say that because I think I was in the US once. I think it was like when I was, I don't know, 14, 15. And I remember there was an elevator that was broken. And we're talking about disability. And so it just come up with my parents, I think.
Hmm.
And I said to myself, why is it so hard for people to get access to things that we need? And I just started just started on the journey, I guess, is when I hit 18, I joined my first committee, which was a white ass with you and a couple of other very, very good friends of ours. Advocacy legends, I call them. Yeah, and here we are today.
So you must have been there a little bit before me because we're roughly the same age, are we? How old are you?
I'm 34, you're
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
35.
I'm 35. So
Yeah.
you must have been. So yeah, you were a white when you were 18. You said,
Yes. So yeah.
um, a while,
Yep.
long time.
Mm.
I remember walking into that room and you were there. And like, you were like all over it. And I'm like, I had no idea what we were doing.
You picked it up pretty quick, mate. You picked it up pretty quick.
And then I remembered we started SDA, which was Sex and Disability Alliance,
That's right. Yeah, that was a long time.
which is funny now because SDA means something else in disability land.
It means something else entirely, doesn't it? It's interesting.
And
Uh,
I giggle every time I think about it. Well, what was the main reason you wanted to be a part of that?
I think because sex with people with disabilities is still to this day, uh, I would say a taboo subject because I think a lot of people they go, oh no, it's too hard, like it's too embarrassing to talk about.
Yeah,
You
true.
know, and I think when we started talking about it, when we started talking about this stuff, people hadn't even considered that people with disabilities were able to have sex or uh,
Mm,
any kind of spicy fun or any kind of like that. Yeah,
yeah. What does spicy fun mean to you?
I think you know, as you know, there's different ways of having sex. I mean, people, you don't have to have straight sex. You can have oral sex. You can have uh, any sexual feelings you want with
Yeah,
somebody, as long as it's consensual. I must stress that is
yeah.
it's all about consent. Consent rocks. Yeah.
And for a person like us or a person like you, like, how do you navigate the world of consent?
Well, I think straightforward is no means no.
Mm,
It's you can't. There's no other way about it. I mean, there's people who uh sometimes you have to sit down and explain what no actually means, but I'm only speaking for myself here, but no means no. Um,
well, then I'm interested in knowing about your sex education.
oh
You,
God.
you talked about how no means no. Does
Yeah.
anybody? It, when I grew up, it was a lot like that too. But what I realized was nobody told me how to say yes, and nobody told me how to have enjoyable sex or the benefits of that. It was all very medical.
Mm,
And I feel like, correct me if you don't agree with me, but I feel like when it comes to disability, we're always, we're almost told to say no, even if we want to say yes. And
yes,
when
I'd agree with that.
is that your experience?
I think you're right. I think we are. How do I always put it? We are encouraged to. I think some of us are encouraged not to have sexual lives, because it is still taboo to this day. I think that, and even if you want to go a bit further, like, you know, people, who have relationships with, I've got to be careful how I say this, but able-bodied people, in our community, um, it's interesting because, um, there's a lot of, you know, sex is sex regardless of whether it's able-bodied or people with disabilities. I think there's a lot of, stigma towards sex in general. And just on your last point, if I may, like when I was at special school, um, I was told to put a condom on a banana. Uh, and I mean that was my sex education when it came to
How
that.
did,
Yeah.
how did it go? Did it fit?
I must have got the biggest banana in the room because it didn't. It was quite curved, if you know what I mean.
Did it resemble your experience?
Yeah, yeah, and I think, um, but as I said, sex is great. Sex is great fun.
I remember when I called you the other day to see if you wanted to be a part of this, and you said to me, now you realize that I didn't have sex until I was 21.
Mm.
I found that really interesting. Do you think that 21 is too old? Like, is, is like, are you saying that you felt like you missed out earlier, or
No, I don't think so. I think, like, I mean, there's people with disabilities who still haven't had sex.
yeah?
Um, no, I just think, um, we, well, I actually, I had, that was just the age. That was just the age that I, decided that I was going to, or my girlfriend at the time, and we decided, that was, you know, that was just the way it was.
So after you made that decision, how easy was it to have sex?
Um, Actually, I might, with that answer 21, I think it was actually 23. So
I,
23 was. I think, um, because I'd never done it before, it was a bit strange how to do it and how to figure out how all the how to how the jigsaw puzzle and all the pieces sort of work, if you know what I mean. Um, yeah, so I think, but you learn as you go. You learn as you go along. You just sort of figure out, um, you know.
and what was the response of the people around you?
Oh, I knew you were going to ask me that. Um, I think my parents were a little bit.
How did your parents find out?
Well, uh, put it this way. Um, we had a bit of a interesting, shall we say, discussion about it. Because I was living at home when I had sex, you
Yeah.
know. So it took a bit for my parents to, I suppose, not accept, but sort of um be comfortable with it. And I accept that. I mean, that's I accept that parents are going to be protective of their children, like everyone does, like everyone does.
But you were 23. I imagine that if you compare our lives to a normal 23, a normal
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
23,
Mm,
the level of privacy that we have to give up to be
mm,
able to do what we want to do
yeah.
is always something that bothers me a little bit.
I think you're right. I think that privacy in our lives, because we have so much support or paid support around us or things like that, you have to be um, mindful of when you say, for example, have a sleepover with a partner, for example, right? You have to be mindful that it is your home, but it's also a workplace. So I think um, that's what people have got to be mindful of. And I agree. I think that there are times where you go, okay, space is a bit limited or privacy is a bit limited, but there's ways around it, as you know, as you well know.
Yeah, I just find that conversation required is a bit annoying because all we want to do is jump in bed with the person we want to be with that night.
Exactly. Yeah.
But first we have to have a conversation with a support worker. We
Yeah.
must, if we're picking up at the bar already or something, we might have to have a conversation with the person that we want to have sex with,
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
whatever. And that takes so much time and energy.
Exactly.
And
Mm,
it can almost get in the way of this spicy fun, as you put it.
yeah.
So are you a single man at the moment?
I am a very single man. I'm very, very single and fancy free. Yeah.
Is it a good thing or
Where I wish I had a partner, and there's times where I like the situation I'm in. I mean, it goes up and down, if you know what I mean. Like, uh,
okay,
yeah, I mean,
about
yeah.
when you say up and down?
Uh, hey, you just got that. I didn't mean that in any other way. I didn't mean that in any rude way, listeners. I didn't mean that in any other way.
So before we press record on here, we talked about how how you went out with your friends last night or whatever, and you often do go out quite a fair bit. Um, where do you pick up often, if you ever pick up? Are you
Um,
like the stereotypical person would be like, I went to the bar or I went online or
um,
that's the same for
I think
you.
I think that I think that most of my partners and majority of partners have been, and this is going to sound a bit wrong, but have been friends first, and then we have gone down the path of romance or getting togetherness or whatever you want to call it. Um,
I think that's nice.
yeah, yeah. Um, and we look. I'll admit that I've made mistakes. I think we all have. But you know, um, yeah, it's just one of those things.
Yeah, relationships are hard.
Mm.
Um, but have you tried the apps or have you tried picking up at the bar?
No, not through choice, but it just doesn't like I I like to get the know I get to yeah I like to get to know the person first, um, and then well, and then go if that person is feeling the same thing I am, um, and then see where it goes, if that makes sense. I mean, I haven't tried I've heard a lot about the apps. I used to be involved in a program about healthy and respectful relationships for people with disabilities. So I know about, sex workers. I know about respectful relationships and sexual health and stuff like that.
I want to talk about sex workers soon, but before we do, you don't have to answer. You don't have to answer anything, but you don't have to answer this question. But when did you have sex last?
Ooh, jeez. Um, this is going to sound. I have to think about that. Um, oh God. I was a couple of years. I reckon about 2000 and so I reckon 2016, 2015. So it's been a long time, listeners. It's been a long time. I haven't forgotten how to do it, but it's been close.
Right, so is that a choice?
It's not a choice, but I haven't I have been actively looking, but just hasn't eventuated into anything.
What do you think are some of the barriers?
I think you know people um you know I think people look at some people with disabilities. I'm not saying me, I'm just saying people in general, and they go, it's too hard. It's too hard. You can have a friendship, but you know, when it comes to romance or anything like that, it's just very hard for people with disabilities to become romantically involved or the dating scene or whatever. Like, I don't know, say if, and I've got to be careful what I say here, but the everyday, let's just say 30-year-old, okay, they can go to bars, they can go to, which we can too. But I think some people see the wheelchair and see the disability first and without seeing the person. And look, I get that some people are cautious, I guess. I mean, I've heard some friends say to me, are they going to break? They're scared they're going to break us or whatever like that. Well, we are human too. Like we're not going to break or what.
Maybe we'll break them.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Break them. Yeah, 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 yeah.
What support do you think you would need to have a better or more frequent sex life?
What support?
Is it society? Is it the NGOs? Is it
I think it's more. Um, I suppose for me, like, it doesn't really worry me. I guess I've just been I've been looking, but I've been lazy in terms of respect. But I think there are a lot of people who do need support, whether it's as you said before, NDIS, whether it's stimulation or encouragement per se. And I don't mean that in any other way apart from groups or things like that. For
opportunity to be together?
yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. That you might be, you might be, yeah, ready and horny to go, and then somebody else like might be horny and ready to go, but because the place that you meet is not accessible, or you haven't got transport, or you don't have support workers to take you there.
Mm,
It's not so much of a barrier to have the sex. It's more of
yeah,
a barrier to get to know people so you can have the sex.
yeah, yeah. And I think, and stop me if we're going too far, but I think also support workers, and I get it. I mean, if you tell some support workers that you're going to a brothel, for example, uh, there might be situations where support workers go, look, that's not for me. Like, I'm all for people they're all for people having rights, but it's a little bit of a slippery slope per se. Um,
Is that what they tell you?
no, no, no. This is only what I've heard through my work situations and stuff like that. But
Yeah,
yeah, mm,
I actually find that whole thing quite interesting.
mm,
I feel like um, when the Indians came in and supports were getting their head around things like sex worker brothels and stuff. And
mm,
I thought they would go, no way, that's not how you do it. You have relationships.
yeah,
But what I'm seeing is um, this, like, service providers actually like the idea of taking a client to a brothel or
mm,
a sex worker because it's um, it's an activity and they don't need to facilitate the trickiness of a relationship. It's
yes,
like going to the supermarket, you go and get your milk, your bread, your dishwashing liquid, and you go home.
yes,
They treat it the same way. You
mm,
go to the brothel, you have your sex, you get nice and regulated, and you go home for the day.
yep.
That's how I feel like support services are actually coming around to that idea, which is quite problematic.
think, I think that,
Because, yeah, because why should we, um, why should people with disabilities only be having sex when we pay for it or as a task? Why are we allowed to have awkward and messy relationships like everybody else?
mm, mm. I think that, and look, I'll go on the record and say that um, I've never used a sex worker, only because, and I've got nothing against people using it, but what people have got to realize is, as you rightly said, is you're paying for that person for, I don't know, let's say an hour. Now, there's no love in it. There's no um, emotional attachment per se. So, and it's just my personal choice. That's why I don't use them. Now, I'm all for people using them. That's not,
Why is it okay for us to have a blowjob, but not to have any feelings about who gives us the blowjob or who
yeah, yeah. I think,
going out to dinner beforehand or whatever?
yeah, yeah. I think, there's even, you know, I was looking at, I knew you're going to ask me something about the NDIS per se, and I was actually looking on a website this morning actually about you can actually get um, sex aids paid for
Mm.
by your plan, if I'm remembering correctly, but it has to be by a sex therapist or by a family planner that has to make a formal request to the NDIS. If I'm right, Jared, I think.
It would depend on how much it was
Yeah, yeah,
and if the person was plan managed or NDIS managed.
yeah, yeah.
Some self-managers have a little bit more freedom.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep.
So you're right, that's a good point. Um, and that goes to my point where, you know, almost the NDIS is saying, um, like, look, you can buy it, like the aids and equipment and whatever,
Mm,
and support services are like, oh no, that's too tricky. Let's just go over somewhere else for somebody else to do it and
yeah,
come back.
yep.
Now I wanted to ask you a very spicy question. Every now and then,
Yes, sir.
there are spicy questions on this podcast. That's the whole premise of the thing. I don't know if you told me or somebody told me that you listen to, I mean, well, you did. I don't know if you still do. But you listen to audio porn, audio book porn.
That yes, I there was one. I'll tell you the story. There was one book about right a sex worker that was a dominatrix,
Right.
right? And this is ages ago. This is ages ago. And so you're right. I did when I say audio book porn, um, she went through what she was capable of doing per se. Um, yeah,
And that made you horny.
well, like any other person, yeah. So yes, you're right, and I know the person who told you that, like who, yeah. But that is fun. That I find it really funny. That's cool. I think a lot of people, um, they don't have an outlet whether because porn is when I say legal porn, I mean porn that you're allowed to watch. Um, porn is not a bad thing. We are still sexual human beings, but we have disabilities.
But is that something you want or do often?
If I mean, I
I want to send the podcast to your mum.
no. No. I mean, no, I don't actually like. I Yeah, it's quite interesting because I do watch porn occasionally,
Mm.
but what red-blooded male doesn't, um, or even for females with disabilities. Like I'm pretty sure there is a lot of females listening to this going, well, I watch porn as well. Um, yeah, for
Maybe,
sexual gratification. Yeah,
maybe if they watch this podcast, they might want to watch it together with you.
I love it. Well done, Jez. I don't know how to best respond. Like I would
I'll
love
put
to.
up, I'll put your email down below so people can. Yeah, you're right. There is this perception that uh, men with disabilities are some sort of sexual deviant people that want to um like sex everything they can see and find. And
Mm.
then on the other hand, women are like asexual, they're not interested. Um Why do you think we have this stereotype that men with disabilities are horny freaks? Are we horny freaks, Rick?
I think so. I mean, I think some men. I think well, I think there are women too that are very, very sexually avert, or very sexually aware per se. Um, and I'm sure that there are men out there who would like to screw the light pole. Um, you know, uh,
Are you one
no, I don't want to screw a light pole.
of those?
That would be extremely difficult. How the hell would I climb it?
Imagine, imagine, imagine the support you would need.
Well, put it this way: how do I best put it? Since I can't walk properly, it would be fucking hard.
I'll be like, dear NGOs,
Mm.
I need 4 support workers to help me achieve my sexual goals of screwing life.
I would think the NDIS would say, do it on your own time and your own
Yeah,
dime, I think.
yeah, figure it out by yourself. Thanks so much for being on Spicy Boys.
Thanks, legend. No worries.
You have a wonderful day. What are you up to now?
Me, I am just going to go and have some lunch, and then I'm going to get ready to go out for dinner tonight. Not with a lady friend, with a good mate.
Maybe you'll pick up.
But nah, I don't think so.
Or maybe,
Um,
maybe you can sneak in some audio porn before you leave.
whatever works, mate. Whatever works.
Thanks so much, Rick.
No worries, boss.
I'll see you next time.
Yeah, bye.
Thanks for tuning in to that interview with Luke. It's always great to catch up.
Yeah.
And as you can see, he's a very funny man as well. We will be back very soon with another episode. We really appreciate you sticking with us. And we are obviously working our way through the technology and podcast. We're playing a bit of catch up. We did a workshop the other day about how to podcast, so we'll see how we go.
Yeah.
We did.
Yes, thank
But,
you.
People can find us on Spotify,
Yeah.
on YouTube,
Yep.
and now we have an Instagram.
We have an Instagram, and Jarrod has put together an awesome little graphic. It's very cool.
Yeah. There'll be more graphics to come.
Yes.
And if you want to be involved, you have it's a Spicy Boys podcast on Instagram. And yeah, if you could share with your friends and family.
Maybe not your family.
Maybe not our family.
Maybe not our family.
Don't give it to me.
Yeah.
See ya.
See ya.